In the quaint village of Eldershire, nestled in the heart of England, the Thompson family, comprised of parents Sarah and David, and their 2 children, Lucy and Oliver, decide to adopt a dog from the local shelter. They are drawn to a scruffy, unusual-looking dog named Max, whose soulful eyes seem to tell a story of hardship. Excited about their new family member, they bring him home, unaware of the secrets he carries. As they settle into their routine with Max, the Thompsons quickly discover that he is unlike any dog they've ever known. He is timid yet curious, often flinching at sudden movements or loud noises. Despite this, Lucy and Oliver are determined to make him feel loved and safe. Sarah prepares a cozy corner for him in the living room, while David takes charge of feeding and walking him. The family's first few days with Max are filled with joy and laughter as they play games in the garden and take long walks through the picturesque countryside. However, subtle signs of Max's troubled past begin to surface. He hesitates at the sound of a door slamming or when someone raises their voice in excitement. The Thompsons notice his anxious behavior but attribute it to his adjustment period. One evening, as they cuddle on the sofa watching a movie, Lucy leans down to pet Max. He suddenly jumps up, barking frantically before retreating to a corner. Confused and concerned, the family reassures him with gentle voices and soothing touches. It becomes clear that Max has been through something traumatic, but they remain committed to helping him heal. As they prepare for their first vet visit to ensure Max is healthy, Sarah reflects on how much love they have already developed for this quirky dog. She hopes that with patience and care, they can help him overcome his fears. Little do they know that their journey is just beginning, and that Max's past will soon come crashing into their lives in ways they never anticipated. The sun shone brightly the following Saturday morning as the Thompson family prepared for Max's first visit to Dr. Amelia Hart, the village veterinarian. The children were buzzing with excitement, eager to show off their new furry friend. Sarah and David, however, felt a mix of anticipation and anxiety. They wanted to ensure Max was healthy but were also concerned about what the vet might discover. As they arrived at the veterinary clinic, a charming stone building adorned with flower boxes, the family was greeted by the friendly receptionist, Mrs. Jenkins. She smiled warmly at Max, who was nervously sniffing the air. "What a lovely boy you have there," she exclaimed, jotting down their information. Inside the examination room, Drive. Hart entered with a reassuring smile. She was in her late 30s, with curly auburn hair and a gentle demeanor that immediately put the Thompsons at ease. "Hello there. You must be Max," she said, kneeling down to his level. Max hesitated but eventually approached her, drawn in by her soft voice. After a thorough examination began, Drive. Hart checked Max's ears, teeth, and coat. She noted his scruffy fur and the way he flinched at certain touches but remained patient and calm throughout the process. "He seems a bit nervous," she remarked to Sarah and David. "How has he been adjusting at home?" "Pretty well, I think," David replied. "He's still a bit skittish at times, but he loves playing with the kids." Dr. Hart nodded thoughtfully as she continued her examination. "That's great to hear. It can take time for rescue dogs to feel safe in their new environments." As she examined Max's legs, her expression shifted slightly. She noticed old scars on his hindquarters that hadn't fully healed. "Have you noticed any unusual behavior?" she asked, looking up at them with concern. "Just some anxiety," Sarah admitted. "He jumps at loud noises and sometimes hides when we raise our voices." Dr. Hart's brow furrowed as she gently palpated Max's abdomen and checked for any signs of distress. "It's not uncommon for dogs from shelters to have experienced trauma," she explained. "But these scars," she paused, her voice steady but serious, "they suggest he may have been mistreated." The room fell silent as the Thompsons absorbed her words. Lucy clutched Max tightly, her eyes wide with worry. "What do you mean? Was he hurt by someone?" Dr. Hart took a deep breath before responding. "It's possible that he was involved in some form of abuse or neglect before coming to the shelter. We need to be vigilant about his health and emotional well-being moving forward." Max seemed to sense the change in atmosphere. He pressed closer to Lucy, seeking comfort from her gentle touch. After completing her examination, Drive. Hart sat down with the family to discuss her findings further. "I recommend some blood tests and possibly an X-ray to rule out any underlying issues," she said, maintaining a compassionate tone. as they discussed treatment options and preventive care for Max. Drive. Hart suddenly received an alert on her phone, a notification that made her expression shift from concern to urgency. "I'm sorry," she said abruptly, standing up and moving toward her desk where her phone buzzed insistently. After reading the message quickly, she turned back to the Thompsons with a serious look on her face. "I need to call the police immediately," she stated firmly. The Thompsons exchanged confused glances as Sarah asked hesitantly, "Is everything all right?" "Doctor." Hart took a deep breath before answering. "I believe your dog may be part of something much larger than just an unfortunate past." Her voice was steady but filled with urgency as she explained that there were reports of illegal dog fighting rings in nearby towns. "Max may have been involved in that world," she continued gravely. "We need to ensure his safety and investigate further." Panic surged through Sarah's chest as she looked at Max, who seemed oblivious to the gravity of their conversation but remained close to Lucy for comfort. As Dr. Hart stepped out of the room to make her call, David placed a reassuring hand on Sarah's shoulder. "We'll figure this out together," he said softly. But deep down, they all knew that their lives, and Max's, were about to change forever. The innocent joy they had felt just days before now felt overshadowed by uncertainty and fear for their beloved dog's past, and what it might mean for their future together as a family. The atmosphere in the veterinary clinic shifted dramatically as Dr. Hart stepped out to make her urgent call to the police. The Thompsons sat in stunned silence, their minds racing with questions and fears about Max's past. Lucy gently stroked Max's fur, whispering soothing words to him, while Oliver looked up at his parents with wide eyes, sensing the tension in the room. "Do you think he was really part of something like that?" Oliver asked, his voice barely above a whisper. David sighed heavily, running a hand through his hair. "I don't know, son. But it sounds like he's been through a lot more than we realized." Sarah felt a knot tighten in her stomach. She had hoped that adopting Max would bring joy and companionship to their family, not uncover dark secrets that could threaten their newfound happiness. "We need to be there for him," she said firmly, her maternal instincts kicking in. "He's been through enough already." Just then, Drive. Hart returned, her expression serious but determined. "I've contacted the local authorities," she informed them. "They'll be here shortly to take a statement and gather information about Max's situation." The Thompsons nodded, still processing the news. As they waited for the police, Drive. Hart suggested they take Max outside for some fresh air. "It might help him relax," she said. Once outside, the family walked Max around the clinic's small garden, where colorful flowers bloomed under the spring sun. Max seemed to enjoy the change of scenery, sniffing at the flowers and wagging his tail cautiously. But every now and then, he would flinch at a sudden sound, a car passing by or a bird chirping loudly. As they played with him, Sarah couldn't shake off her concern. "What if we can't help him?" she murmured to David as they watched Lucy and Oliver throw a ball for Max. "We can't think like that," David replied softly. "We'll do everything we can to help him heal." Before they could delve deeper into their worries, 2 police officers arrived at the clinic, Detective Inspector Liam O'Sullivan and his partner, Officer Clara Hughes. D. O'Sullivan was tall and imposing, with sharp features and an air of authority that commanded respect. Officer Hughes was more approachable, with a friendly smile that seemed to put everyone at ease. "Good afternoon," D. O'Sullivan greeted them as he approached the Thompsons. "I understand you've adopted this dog recently." "Yes," Sarah replied, her voice trembling slightly. "His name is Max." The detective knelt down to Max's level, observing him closely. "He seems like a good boy," he said gently before looking back at Sarah and David. "Dr. Hart has informed us of her concerns regarding his condition." The family nodded solemnly as Dr. Hart joined them outside. She explained her findings about Max's scars and behavior while D. O'Sullivan listened intently. "We believe there may be a connection between your dog and an ongoing investigation into illegal dog fighting in this area," D. O'Sullivan stated gravely. "If you're willing, we'd like to ask you some questions about where you found him and how he came into your care." As they answered his questions about their adoption process and any details they knew about Max's previous life, Sarah felt a growing sense of dread. What if they uncovered something truly horrific? "Do you have any information about where he might have come from?" Officer Hughes asked gently. "We adopted him from the Eldershire Animal Shelter," Lucy piped up, her voice filled with innocence despite the seriousness of the situation. He was just sitting there all alone. Did he have any tags or identification? D. O'Sullivan probed further. No, David replied. The shelter said he was found as a stray. After collecting all the necessary information, D. O'Sullivan stood up straight and looked directly at the Thompsons. Thank you for your cooperation. We'll follow up on this lead and keep you updated on any developments regarding Max's case. As they exchanged contact information with the officers, Lucy clutched Max tightly against her chest, tears welling in her eyes. I just want him to be safe, she whispered. Me too, Oliver added quietly. Seeing their children so affected by the situation tugged at Sarah's heartstrings even more. She knelt down beside them and wrapped her arms around both kids and Max in a comforting embrace. We'll do everything we can to protect him, she promised. As D. O'Sullivan and Officer Hughes left the clinic, Sarah felt an overwhelming sense of determination rise within her. They had taken Max into their home not just as a pet but as part of their family, and they would fight for him just as fiercely as he had fought to survive whatever horrors lay in his past. Little did they know that their journey was only beginning. Soon, they would uncover truths that would challenge their understanding of loyalty, love, and what it truly meant to rescue an animal in need. The following days were a whirlwind of emotions for the Thompson family. Max was settling in, but the shadow of his past loomed over them like a dark cloud. They had received a call from Detective Inspector Liam O'Sullivan, who informed them that the investigation into Max's previous life was underway. The police were following leads related to illegal dog fighting rings in the region, but they needed more information to build a case. As the family adjusted to their new routine, they made it a priority to help Max feel safe and loved. They created a cozy space for him in their living room, filled with soft blankets and toys. Lucy and Oliver spent hours playing with him, teaching him commands and showering him with affection. Slowly but surely, Max began to trust them, though remnants of his anxiety still surfaced at unexpected moments. One evening, after dinner, Sarah gathered the family around the kitchen table. I think we should do more to help Max, she suggested, her voice filled with determination. We can't just wait for the police to figure everything out. David nodded in agreement. What do you have in mind? I've been reading about animal welfare organizations and advocacy groups, Sarah explained. We could reach out to them for support and raise awareness about Max's situation. If we can gather enough information and community support, it might help the police in their investigation. Lucy's eyes lit up with excitement. Can we organize a fundraiser? We could sell cookies or something. That's a great idea, Oliver chimed in. We could tell people about Max and how they can help dogs like him. With newfound enthusiasm, the Thompsons began planning their community event. They decided to host a bake sale at the local park on Saturday, inviting friends and neighbors to join them in support of animal welfare. They printed flyers detailing Max's story, hoping to raise awareness about the plight of dogs like him. As the week progressed, they worked tirelessly on their preparations. Lucy and Oliver baked cookies and cupcakes while Sarah created colorful posters to display at the event. David contacted local animal shelters and rescue organizations to gather information about how they could further support animals in need. On the day of the bake sale, Eldershire Park was alive with activity. Families strolled through the park, children played on swings, and laughter filled the air. The Thompsons set up their booth near the entrance, adorned with bright banners that read, "Help us save dogs like Max." As people approached their booth, Lucy and Oliver eagerly shared Max's story, explaining how he had been rescued from an abusive situation. Many visitors were moved by their passion and compassion for animals in need. Thank you for sharing this, an elderly woman said as she purchased a box of cookies. I had no idea there were so many dogs suffering out there. As word spread about their cause, more people stopped by their booth. Some offered donations while others shared stories of their own rescue pets. It became clear that the community was rallying around them, united by a common goal of helping animals like Max find safety and love. By midday, they had raised a significant amount of money and garnered interest from several local organizations eager to help spread awareness about animal welfare issues. Sarah felt a sense of pride swell within her as she watched her children passionately advocate for Max and other dogs in need. Just as they were packing up for the day, D. O'Sullivan arrived at the park with Officer Hughes. The Thompsons greeted them warmly, grateful for their presence. "Hello again," D. O'Sullivan said with a smile as he approached their booth. "I heard about your bake sale. It's impressive what you've accomplished here." "Thank you. We wanted to do something to help Max," Lucy said excitedly. Officer Hughes knelt down beside Max, who was resting quietly under the table. "He looks much happier," she remarked gently as she petted him. "He is," David replied proudly. "We're doing our best to help him adjust." D. O'Sullivan looked around at the bustling park filled with families enjoying their day together. "Your efforts are making a difference," he said earnestly. "And I wanted to update you on our investigation." The Thompsons leaned in closer, eager to hear any news regarding Max's past. "We've identified several individuals linked to illegal dog fighting rings in nearby towns," D. O'Sullivan explained. "Your event has raised awareness that will aid our investigation significantly. What can we do next?" Sarah asked, her determination unwavering. "Continue spreading awareness," D. O'Sullivan advised. "The more people know about these issues, the better chance we have at dismantling these operations once and for all." With renewed purpose, the Thompsons agreed to keep advocating for animals like Max while remaining vigilant about his well-being. As they packed up their booth that afternoon, Lucy turned to her parents with bright eyes. "Can we keep doing this? I want everyone to know how important it is to help dogs like Max." "Absolutely," David replied with a smile. "This is just the beginning." With Max by their side, a symbol of resilience and hope, the Thompsons felt empowered to continue their fight against animal cruelty while fostering love and compassion within their community. Little did they know that their journey would soon take an unexpected turn as they uncovered even deeper connections between Max's past and the dark world of illegal dog fighting that threatened countless other animals' lives. As the weeks passed, Max continued to thrive in the loving environment the Thompson family had created for him. The bake sale had sparked a movement in Eldershire, and the community was becoming increasingly aware of the issues surrounding animal welfare. The Thompsons received messages from local organizations expressing their gratitude for raising awareness and offering support for future initiatives. Max had slowly begun to shed his anxious demeanor. He was more playful, bounding around the garden with Lucy and Oliver, who delighted in teaching him new tricks. They spent countless afternoons tossing a frisbee or playing fetch, watching as Max's confidence grew with each passing day. Yet, despite his progress, moments of fear would still surface unexpectedly, like when a loud truck rumbled down the street or when someone raised their voice in excitement. Each time, Max would retreat to a corner, seeking solace until he felt safe again. One sunny Saturday morning, Sarah decided it was time for a family outing to the nearby countryside. "Let's take Max on a hike," she suggested enthusiastically at breakfast. "It'll be good for all of us to get some fresh air and explore." Lucy and Oliver cheered at the idea, their faces lighting up with excitement. David agreed, and soon they were packing snacks and water bottles into a backpack while Max wagged his tail eagerly, sensing the energy in the air. Arriving at the picturesque trailhead surrounded by lush greenery and vibrant wildflowers, the family set off on their adventure. Max trotted happily alongside them, exploring every nook and cranny along the path. The children took turns leading him, calling out commands like, "Sit," and "Stay," which he followed with growing enthusiasm. As they hiked deeper into the woods, they stumbled upon a serene clearing with a sparkling stream running through it. The children squealed with delight as they ran toward the water's edge, splashing playfully. Max watched them curiously before tentatively stepping closer to investigate. "Look at him," Oliver exclaimed as Max dipped his paws into the cool water. "He's so brave." Encouraged by their laughter and joy, Max began to playfully splash around, his tail wagging furiously as he chased after leaves floating downstream. Sarah and David exchanged glances filled with pride. They could see how far he had come since they first adopted him. After a while, they settled on a grassy patch near the stream to enjoy their picnic. As they unpacked sandwiches and fruit, Lucy reached over to pet Max, who lay contentedly beside her. "You're such a good boy," she said softly, her voice filled with affection. Suddenly, Oliver's expression shifted from joy to concern as he noticed something in the distance. A group of men gathered near another part of the clearing. They were shouting at each other animatedly, their voices rising in anger. "Mom, Dad," Oliver whispered nervously. "What's happening over there?" David turned to look at the group and felt a sense of unease wash over him. Let's keep our distance, he said cautiously. We don't want to get involved in anything dangerous. Just then, one of the men turned sharply toward them, his gaze locking onto Max. A flicker of recognition crossed his face before he turned back to his companions with an excited shout. Look, that dog, I know that dog. Panic surged through Sarah as she felt her heart race. We need to leave now, she urged quietly but firmly. The family quickly gathered their things while keeping an eye on the group of men. As they started to back away from the clearing, one of them broke away from the others and approached them. Hey, is that your dog? He called out, his voice laced with an unsettling mix of curiosity and aggression. David stepped protectively in front of Sarah and the kids. Yes, he is, he replied firmly but calmly. And we need to be going now. The man took another step forward, eyeing Max intently. That dog's got some history, he said with a smirk that sent chills down Sarah's spine. Before David could respond, Lucy stepped forward bravely, clutching Max's collar tightly. He's ours now. You can't have him, she declared defiantly. The man laughed mockingly but didn't advance further. Instead, he glanced back at his friends before turning back to them with a dismissive wave. Whatever you say, but you should watch out for him. With that cryptic warning hanging in the air, he retreated back toward his group. Feeling a rush of adrenaline mixed with fear, David ushered everyone away from the area quickly but quietly. Once they were safely back on the trail leading away from the clearing, Sarah took a deep breath to steady her racing heart. What was that about? Oliver asked anxiously as they walked briskly. I don't know, David replied grimly. But it didn't feel right. As they reached their car parked at the trailhead, Sarah looked down at Max, who seemed blissfully unaware of what had just transpired but still radiated joy from their day together. She knelt beside him and stroked his fur gently. You're safe now, she whispered reassuringly. Once home, however, unease settled over them like a heavy blanket. The encounter lingered in their minds as they sat together for dinner that night. We need to talk about what happened today, David said seriously after they had finished eating. I'm scared, Lucy admitted quietly as she played with her food. We all are, Sarah replied softly but firmly. But we can't let fear stop us from helping Max or other animals like him. David nodded in agreement. We need to stay vigilant and continue working with D. O'Sullivan on this investigation. As they discussed their next steps, how they could ensure Max's safety while continuing their advocacy work, the bond between them grew stronger than ever before. They were not just a family, they were allies united by love for an innocent creature who had endured so much pain. That night, as Sarah tucked Lucy into bed and kissed Oliver goodnight, she felt an overwhelming sense of determination rise within her heart. No matter what challenges lay ahead, whether it was facing down threats from those who sought to harm animals or navigating Max's troubled past, they would face it together as a family. And together they would fight for justice, not just for Max but for all animals who deserved love and safety in this world filled with uncertainty. The days following their unsettling encounter in the woods were filled with a mixture of vigilance and determination for the Thompson family. They continued to nurture Max, showering him with love and attention while remaining alert to any signs of danger. The police investigation into his past was ongoing, and D. O'Sullivan kept them updated on any developments. One afternoon, as the family sat in the living room, the phone rang. Sarah answered and recognized D. O'Sullivan's voice immediately. Hello, Mrs. Thompson. I have some important news regarding Max. Her heart raced as she motioned for David, Lucy, and Oliver to gather around her. What is it? She asked, trying to keep her voice steady. We've made significant progress in our investigation, D. O'Sullivan explained. We've identified a suspect linked to the dog fighting ring we believe Max was part of. His name is Marcus Hayes, and he has a history of animal cruelty. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine at the mention of the name. What does that mean for Max? She asked, her voice trembling slightly. We're working on gathering enough evidence to arrest him, D. O'Sullivan replied. But we need your help. We believe that Max may be able to identify him. Lucy gasped softly, clutching Max tightly against her chest. What do you mean? We'd like to bring you in for a witness identification procedure, D. O'Sullivan explained. It's important that we ensure Max's safety while we handle this carefully. David exchanged worried glances with Sarah before responding. We'll do whatever it takes to help, he said resolutely. Thank you, Dee O'Sullivan said gratefully. "I'll arrange for you to come to the station tomorrow morning." That night, as they prepared for bed, tension hung thick in the air. Sarah tucked Lucy in, brushing a strand of hair from her daughter's forehead. "You're going to be brave tomorrow," she said softly. "I will," Lucy replied, though her eyes betrayed her anxiety. David reassured Oliver as he settled into bed. "Remember, we're all in this together," he said firmly. The next morning dawned bright and clear, but the Thompsons felt a heaviness in their hearts as they made their way to the police station. Max sat comfortably in Lucy's lap, sensing her unease but remaining blissfully unaware of the gravity of the situation. Upon arriving at the station, they were greeted by Dee O'Sullivan and Officer Hughes, who led them into a small room designed for witness identification procedures. The atmosphere was serious but supportive as they explained what would happen next. "Max will be shown a series of photographs," Dee O'Sullivan explained. "We'll observe his reactions closely to determine if he recognizes anyone." Sarah held Max close as they prepared for the process. Lucy whispered comforting words into his ear while Oliver squeezed his paw gently. As the procedure began, Dee O'Sullivan displayed photographs of various individuals associated with the dog-fighting ring, including Marcus Hayes. Each time a new photo was shown, everyone held their breath in anticipation. When Marcus's photo appeared on the screen, Max's demeanor changed instantly. He growled lowly and stiffened in Lucy's arms. The reaction was unmistakable. "Did you see that?" Officer Hughes exclaimed, noting Max's response. Dee O'Sullivan nodded gravely. "It looks like he recognizes this individual." After completing the identification process, Dee O'Sullivan thanked them for their cooperation and assured them that they would proceed with an arrest warrant for Marcus Hayes based on Max's reaction and other gathered evidence. As they left the station, relief washed over Sarah and David like a wave. They had taken a significant step toward ensuring Max's safety and bringing justice for all animals affected by cruelty. Back at home, Lucy hugged Max tightly as tears of joy streamed down her face. "You did it. You helped us," she exclaimed, her voice filled with pride. Max wagged his tail happily, seemingly oblivious to the magnitude of what had just transpired but basking in the love surrounding him. In the days that followed, news broke that Marcus Hayes had been arrested along with several accomplices involved in illegal dog-fighting operations across multiple towns. The community rallied behind the Thompsons' efforts to raise awareness about animal welfare. Local media covered their story extensively, highlighting their advocacy work and encouraging others to support rescue organizations. As they watched news reports featuring their family and Max's journey toward healing and justice, Sarah felt an overwhelming sense of hope swell within her heart. They had transformed their fear into action, turning their love for one dog into a movement that would help countless others find safety and compassion. One sunny afternoon several weeks later, they hosted an event at Eldershire Park, a celebration of resilience and hope for all animals in need. Families gathered, with their pets. There were booths set up by local shelters offering adoption information and resources about responsible pet ownership. Max was a star attraction at the event. Children flocked around him as he played fetch with Lucy and Oliver under the warm sun. The Thompsons shared their story with attendees who listened intently about their journey from adoption to advocacy. As Sarah looked around at all the smiling faces, people united by a shared love for animals, she couldn't help but feel grateful for everything that had transpired since bringing Max into their lives. That evening as they returned home together, Max happily trotting alongside them, Sarah reflected on how far they had come as a family. They had faced challenges that tested their strength but emerged stronger than ever before. "Thank you for being brave," she whispered to Max as he settled down beside her on the couch later that night. In response, he rested his head on her lap contentedly, a silent acknowledgement of their bond forged through love and resilience. Together they had turned pain into purpose, and through it all found hope not just for themselves but also for countless other animals who deserved second chances at life filled with love and joy. And so began a new chapter in their lives, a journey dedicated not only to caring for Max but also advocating fiercely for those who could not speak for themselves, a testament that love has the power to heal even the deepest wounds and create lasting change in the world around them.